CenterPoint production centers and production center details can store geospatial maps that provide a visual application of your CenterPoint production center data. We're going to go through the menu options of creating and editing maps from Setup and Production Centers. Your production centers are stored both at Production Centers and Crop Production Center details and Livestock Production Center details. We're going to go through doing the maps at Production Centers in this session, and there'll be another session to do some additional things at Crop Production Center details. So we're going to go to Production Centers and highlight one of our production centers and go to the Map tab. This is a screen you'll first see with the menu options for map. And under Production Center are some different options to display your maps and help you move around. You can use the wheel on your mouse to zoom in and out of the map area. If you already have some maps and your production center is in a production center group that has some maps on the other fields, clicking this icon, Farm Group, is going to bring up the maps that are in that production center group. So this particular field isn't part of this, one of the ones that are displayed here yet. We're going to be adding that, but these are the other fields that are currently in that group. There are some background options, and currently you are looking at the hybrid, which is a combination of using road descriptions and an aerial view. If we go just to roads, then you're just going to get road descriptions without the aerial, or aerial is aerial without the road descriptions. And I'm going to go back to hybrid. And if you're zooming around, you can grab your mouse and you can move your map around or use your wheel, as I mentioned. And if you get it where you can't see where you're really wanting to be anymore, click Recenter, and that brings the focus back to the selected area. Now we have some other icons, and this is how we're going to be either adding our maps by drawing them. So if you don't have access to shapefiles or other sources that are storing geospatial data, you can also draw it in CenterPoint. And we'll show you how to do that too, because there are some add edit menu options, or you can import. So we're going to first do that. We're going to go to the import and then go to source. And currently we can import from shapefiles or from My John Deere if you have a My John Deere account. And there's another a session out there showing you how to get authorized for My John Deere and then importing from a My John Deere account. We're going to use the shapefiles, and the shapefiles then brings up your file explorer to select where you're storing your shapefiles. And we're going to select this shapefile, and that brought in several fields. Now in your shapefiles, it might be one individual field per file, but in my case for sample, I have several fields. So out of these fields that are in this area, I can then select which ones that I want representing this particular production center that I'm in. So I'm going to click my mouse on one, and if there is more than one segment that needs to be in this field, I can hold down my control key and select another one. Those fields are now outlined, and I know those are selected. And now I can click accept, and that's how easy it was to bring that field into my production center. If I undo the group list, now I can get to just the field that I imported. And now once I have this imported, if I need to make some changes on it, I can do that with add edit. Currently I have a shape title on here, and that's representing the calculated area. So as you're building your shapes or importing your shapes, it's going to calculate what the acreage is on that particular area. The other information in my shape tools, as I hover my mouse over it, is the name of this field, the calculated area, and the reported area. The reported area is coming from the acreage that I have in my production center setup. So now if I wanted to edit this field, I can click on Add Edit and select my field, and then click Edit Selected Shape. As I click Edit Selected Shape, it's going to display all of the points that are part of this particular shape. And I could change the shape of this if I wanted to. I can grab one of these points And I can drag it up here if I really said, well, that's not supposed to be cut out like that. It should be included, so I can change that shape. I can grab any of these different points and move them if I need to. Once I have this how I want it, well, let's do a shape that's kind of not what we want. And if there's something you moved and you don't want to, then you can always go to undo last edit. That takes that back. And every time you click undo last edit, it will remove the last move that you did. Or if you want to reject the whole thing, then you just click reject changes, and that would take you back to your original shape. If you need to, on this particular shape, let's go back to add edit, and let's say that we need to cut out this little area because it's not really tillable ground in there. We need to cut that out. So then we can go to insert new shape, and you won't see anything happening yet until you click your mouse the first time. That's going to make a point, and now you're going to drag to the next point you want, and you keep making the shape that you want for this particular need. When you get back to the very first point you started at, double click, that will complete that shape. And now if I click accept changes, it decreased the size of my acreage because I have a shape within the boundary. So if you make a new shape within the boundary, it's going to decrease the calculated area. Let's say that there's another piece of this field that should be part of it, but it's outside of this boundary. It's maybe divided by a row of trees or something. So I'm going to go again to add edit, insert a new shape. I'm just going to add this little section here. Oh, well, this is okay. Now double click on my first point. That added that little section, and if I click accept, now notice that it increased my acreage again because this is a segment of it that's outside the boundary, so it adds it. If it's inside the boundary, it deducts it. Outside, it adds it. So you can also, that is how you would create your fields if you don't have access to shape files or different sources that you can import your shapes from. You can just zoom into the area where your field is and use the add edit options to draw your field. There are also some other options here on add edit. If this was just off a little bit and I needed to move it, then I can drag this field. So I'm going to go and it highlights it again. I can drag this if it's off just a little bit, or I can use the rotate icon and move it one way or the other if I needed to rotate that. And again, if you make those changes and you don't like it, then just do the undo last edit or reject your changes. And that brings you back to your original display here from what it was before you made those changes. So that's how easy it is to either import your field files or draw them within the CenterPoint tools. And once you have these fields, you can save that, and then you can also have access to printing those fields from your print export. You can do a print preview, and in your print preview, you can go to header footer and add headers and footers if we want. If we want to add that field name, Walsh West, we can put a footer in too if we wanted to. That adds that on your printout. From the preview, you can also export. You can export to all these different file formats, or you can send this as an email, and that would also attach and export to an email, and an email screen would come up to fill that out and then attach that file. And then there are the other options to print, where a print dialog comes up to pick your printer and print, or the print default will print directly to the default printer in Windows, or the export would come up with the File Explorer to export that map to an export file of a PDF. And in our next session, we will go through some additional options that are available when you're adding your maps at Production Center Details.